Just let it go. The ring is gone. Those were the words that shattered my world. My son, Mike, leaned against my kitchen counter with an air of entitlement, arms folded, completely unmoved by the profound devastation he had just inflicted. He had no idea I was counting on that money for my own trip, a journey to the Scottish Highlands Clara had always wanted to see. I just stared at him, my hands still damp from washing the breakfast dishes, Clara's favorite teacup rattling in my hand. You sold your mother's diamond ring without even telling me. Dad, come on, get a grip. It was just a piece of jewelry, just a piece of jewelry. It had only been 6 months since I had buried my wife of 43 years, and now my own child had pilfered the one thing of hers I touched every single day. I polished it every night, just as Clara had shown me, a small ritual that kept her close. The thing about being betrayed is that it leaves a specific taste in your mouth, something bitter and coppery like old coins. Standing in my Chicago kitchen, looking at my 42-year-old son who seemed to believe grief had a sell-by date, I experienced that taste in its full, sickening strength. Which pawn shop? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Mike's wife, Ashley, glanced up from her phone. Oh, wonderful. He's being rational now. Her tone was laced with the unique brand of condescension she had honed over the years. Frankly, Arthur, holding on to physical objects, is unhealthy. Clara wouldn't want you mired in the past. Don't you dare tell me what Clara would want, I thought, clenching my jaw. Ashley had been an expert on Clara's supposed wishes ever since the funeral, particularly when those wishes involved me giving them something. Liberty Pawn on Clark Street, Mike said, glancing at his sleek new smartwatch, a device that likely cost more than the ring he'd just sold. They gave me $1,000 for it. Pretty good for an old ring, $1,000. For the 2-carat diamond Clara had saved for years to buy when Mike was born. The ring Clara wore every day of our life together until a nurse handed it to me in a small plastic bag along with her wedding band. That diamond was worth at least $5,000, I stated flatly. Ashley scoffed. In your dreams. The setting was completely outdated because I was the one who cared for it, who kept it shining, who kept Clara's memory alive in some tangible way. They wouldn't get that. Mike and Ashley inhabited a world where everything had a price and nothing had a soul. I'm going to buy it back, I declared. Good luck, Mike said, walking toward the door. Our flight leaves in the morning. Ashley's been planning this Italian getaway for ages. Ashley trailed behind him, pausing to give me a look of feigned sympathy. Arthur, you should really think about talking to someone. This fixation on Clara's belongings isn't right. The door clicked shut, leaving me in a silence that had become my closest friend since Clara was gone, the taste of betrayal still sharp on my tongue. But here was the thing Mike and Ashley didn't understand about their grieving old father. I'd spent 40 years as a certified public accountant. I knew the difference between surrender and a calculated plan, and I was finished with surrendering. The pawn shop was a cramped, dusty space with harsh fluorescent lights that made everything look vaguely unwell. The man at the counter had tattooed forearms and the tired look of someone who has heard it all. Hear about the diamond ring? He asked before I could speak. How did you know? Your son called. Said his sentimental old dad might stop by. Having a tough time letting go, he gave an apologetic shrug. Listen, sir, I sympathize, but I run a business. I paid a fair price, a fair price. As if you could put a price on 43 years of a shared life, on the way Clara's hand fell in mine, on the weight of that ring when it was all I had left of her. I'll pay you whatever you need to get it back, the man, whose name tag read Danny, looked uneasy. It's gone. A gentleman came in first thing this morning. Paid in cash. All sales are final. My heart plummeted. Some stranger was out there with Clara's ring, and it was gone forever because my son wanted pocket money for his vacation. But, Danny continued, his voice lower now, we did find something strange when we were cleaning it up. He went into a back room and came back with a tiny manila envelope. There was a hidden recess inside the setting. A real professional job. We found this tucked inside. He tipped a minuscule, folded piece of aged paper into my palm. In Clara's elegant script, it read, Arthur's birthday, July 15th, 1955. The day I knew he was the one. Below there was a string of characters that looked like a code. CE 4457CH0815AS. I stared at the paper, my hands trembling. Clara had never said a word about a secret compartment. In all our years together, she had kept this from me, hidden in plain sight on her finger. Do those numbers mean anything to you? Danny asked. I shook my head, though they felt vaguely familiar, like a password I'd forgotten. Clara had been meticulous, always writing down important information in her neat hand. The man who bought the ring, I said abruptly. Can you describe it? Danny's expression tightened. Why do you ask? Because my wife hid this for a reason. I have a feeling whoever bought that ring might be in for a surprise of his own, sir. I can't really, please, I interrupted, letting him see the grief that was still so raw. That ring is all I have left of her. I just want to know if he seemed aware of the compartment. Danny hesitated, studying my face. Finally, he let out a long breath. He didn't say much, but when I told him we found something inside, he got very interested. Asked if we'd open the note, a shiver went down my spine. Did he leave a name? Cash purchase. No ID required, Danny paused. But he did ask specifically about vintage diamond rings that had come in recently. Claimed to be a collector. Someone had been searching for Clara's ring. But who? And how did they know her secret? I thanked Danny and walked out into the afternoon sun, the little piece of paper in my pocket feeling like a lit match. Clara had kept this hidden for decades. Hidden it from me. What other secrets had my wife been keeping? That night, I sat at Clara's writing desk in our bedroom, surrounded by a lifetime of meticulously organized records. She had saved everything. The code from a ring lay before me. CE 4457CH0815AS. I had gone through every bank account, every investment portfolio, every safe deposit box key we shared. Nothing matched. Clara had always been financially prudent. A savings account, a checking account, a respectable retirement fund. Nothing extravagant, nothing secret. Or so I had believed. My phone buzzed, breaking the silence. Mike's name glowed on the screen. Dad, Ashley is really mad. She said you caused a scene at the pawn shop. I nearly laughed. A scene? I was trying to reclaim my wife's stolen ring. I want to buy back your mother's ring. Someone had already bought it, see? Problem solved. Time to let go. The flippancy in his voice was like a physical blow. This was Clara's son, the baby she had worked 2 jobs to support, the boy she had taught to read and ride a bike. When had he become so callous? Mike, there was something hidden in the ring. Your mother left a note for me. There was a pause on the line. Then what kind of note? I'm not sure. It looks like some kind of account number or password. Dad, Mike's voice sharpened, suddenly alert. What exactly did the note say? His tone put me on guard. This was the most engaged he had sounded in anything concerning his mother since her passing. Just a few numbers and letters, I said, being deliberately vague. Probably nothing. Maybe I should come over. I could help you figure out. This time I did laugh, a short, bitter sound. Yesterday, you told me to live in the present. Today you want to help me sift through Clara's past. Fine, be difficult, Mike snapped. But don't call me when you've driven yourself crazy chasing shadows. After he hung up, I stared at the phone. Mike's sudden curiosity was deeply suspicious. He had made it abundantly clear that he saw Clara's possessions as sentimental junk, unless they were more than that. I turned back to the desk, but with a new approach. I wasn't looking for a direct match anymore. I was looking for a system. Clara had been a librarian. She thought in patterns and categories. CE could be her initials, Clara Evans. CH could be Chicago. 0815 was August 15th, our anniversary. AS had to be my initials. Arthur Sullivan. The code was about us. I opened my laptop and began to search. Swiss banks used similar alphanumeric codes, as did offshore investment houses. 3 hours later, I found it. A firm called Crestone Equity Management, based in the Cayman Islands. Their website was discreet, catering to wealthy clients who valued privacy. The login page asked for a client number and a password. My fingers shook as I typed CE 4457CH0815AS into the client number field. A message appeared. Valid account number. Now for the password. Something only I would know. Something Clara knew I'd figure out. I tried our wedding date, our first address, my birthday. All failed. Then I looked at the note again. Arthur's birthday, July 15th, 1955. The day I knew he was the one. Not my actual birthday. July 15th was the day we met at a summer festival in Grant Park. Clara always said that was the night she knew we'd be together forever. I typed 071555 and held my breath. Access granted. The page that loaded made me choke back a sob. Current account balance, $2, 847 02967. Clara had hidden nearly $3 million from me. I stared at the screen, the numbers searing themselves into my mind. Nearly $3 million in an account I never knew about, held by a bank I'd never heard of, concealed by the woman who for 43 years had convinced me we were living a modest, careful life. Every discussion about budgets, every time I saw her mending my shirts instead of buying new ones, all of it had been a lie while she sat on a fortune. My first feeling was a surge of white-hot anger at the years of deception. But then I clicked on the transaction history. The first deposit was in 1982, 3 years after Mike was born. $5,000. The memo read, "Initial inheritance investment, SIP inheritance." Clara had never spoken of a significant inheritance. I scrolled through decades of deposits, most of them small, 500 here, 1,000 there. She hadn't been siphoning money from our joint income. She had been growing something else entirely. The deposits were steady until 2008, when they suddenly increased. Instead of hundreds, Clara had started depositing tens of thousands at a time. The memos on these larger deposits sent a chill through me. Real estate liquidation, Chicago properties. Clara had been buying and selling property without my knowledge. How do you live with someone for over 4 decades and not know they're a secret real estate investor? I found a folder in the accounts message center labeled for Arthur. Emergency access only. Inside was a video file, uploaded just 3 months before she died. I hesitated. Whatever Clara had to say, I wasn't sure I wanted to hear it. But I was alone. My son had stolen the key to this mystery, and I was apparently a millionaire. I needed answers. Clara's face filled the screen. She looked tired, but her smile was the same. She was in her study at the library, likely recording this on her lunch break. "Arthur, my love, if you're seeing this, it means I'm gone, and something has gone terribly wrong." Her voice was calm, but her eyes were filled with sorrow. "I never wanted you to find this account. I hope we would grow old, and I'd confess it all to you one day over a glass of wine." She paused, rubbing her temple in that familiar way she did when she was troubled. "The money isn't really mine, darling. It was my father's. He hid it away before he passed in 1981. He made me swear to keep it a secret, to protect it, and to only use it if our family was in real danger." Clara's father had died when Mike was just a toddler. I remember the small inheritance that helped us pay off the house. I had no idea there was more. My father lived through the Depression. He saw how easily people could lose everything. He wanted to ensure his grandchildren would always be safe. Clara looked right at the camera, and I felt as if she were in the room with me. I've invested it carefully. It's grown over the years, but its purpose was always the same. An insurance policy against disaster. The video went on, but I was fixated on one phrase. "I hoped you'd never need to access this account." Clara had died from a sudden aneurysm. No warning. How could she have known I would need this? Unless the disaster she was guarding against wasn't an act of fate. Unless Clara knew something about our family that I was only just beginning to grasp. The next morning, I called in sick to my volunteer tax prep service. For the first time in half a year, I had a purpose beyond helping people with their 1040s. I had to understand what Clara meant by real danger. I started with her most recent transactions. The last deposit was made 2 weeks before her death, $25,000, with a note, "Property sale, emergency, liquidation, emergency." Clara had been converting her assets to cash just before she died. I spent the day digging into every property transaction she had ever made. The woman I had been married to for 43 years was a clandestine real estate magnate. But here was the detail that made my blood run cold. Every property Clara had sold in the past year had been bought by the same entity, a company named Sullivan Investments, LLC. Sullivan was my last name. It was also Mike's. I called my nephew, Danny, who was a real estate agent. Uncle Art, how are you? I'm okay, Danny. I need a favor. Have you ever heard of a company called Sullivan Investments? There was a pause. Actually, yes. They've been snapping up properties all over the north side. All cash offers, closing fast. Why? Can you find out who owns it? Give me an hour. During that hour, I searched Clara's desk again. Tucked in the back of a filing cabinet, I found a folder labeled Insurance. Inside were not policies, but deeds, contracts, and a letter that made my hands tremble. It was from a private investigator, dated 6 months before Clara's death. Mrs. Sullivan, per your request, I have completed my investigation into your son, Michael Sullivan. My findings are deeply concerning. Your son has accrued over $180,000 in gambling debts. He has also taken out several high-interest loans against his business using falsified documents. Of greater concern, Mr. Sullivan has been making inquiries about your estate, specifically about contesting wills, power of attorney, and elder care facilities. I believe your son is planning to have your husband declared incompetent to gain control of his assets. I strongly recommend you take immediate steps to protect your assets and ensure your husband's financial security. Regards, Thomas Chun, private investigator. My phone rang. It was Danny. Uncle Art, you're not going to like this. Sullivan Investments, LLC is registered to one person, Michael Sullivan. Your son, Mike. I closed my eyes as the horrifying picture came into focus. Clara hadn't been hiding the money from me. She had been hiding it from Mike. Every property she sold, every emergency liquidation, was Clara moving their assets beyond our son's reach. Clara knew. She knew her own son was plotting to rob his father. But she had died before she could tell me, leaving behind only a secret in a diamond ring. My son hadn't sold the ring for vacation money. He'd sold it because he was hunting for the very thing I had just found, the key to his mother's hidden fortune. And now that he knew I had found something, he would not rest until he had it. I was still sitting in Clara's chair, staring at the investigator's report, when I heard a key in the front door. Ashley. She'd kept a spare since the funeral, supposedly to check on me. Now I knew she was checking on my assets. Arthur, are you home? Her voice was artificially sweet. Mike and I are on our way to the airport. Just wanted to stop by. I quickly slid the report back into its folder and minimized the bank website on the laptop. If they were playing a game, I needed to learn the rules before showing my cards. In the bedroom, I called out. They appeared in the doorway a moment later, Mike with a carry-on bag and Ashley dressed for a first-class lounge. Just wanted to say goodbye, Mike said, but his eyes were roaming over the papers on Clara's desk. What are you working on? Just going through your mother's things, I said evenly. There's so much I never knew. Ashley moved closer, her eyes fixed on my laptop. Find anything interesting? The question was casual, but her focus was sharp. This was a reconnaissance mission. Just old bank statements. Your mother was incredibly organized. Mike seemed to relax a fraction. Yeah, Mom was a stickler for records, actually, I said, deciding to bait the hook. I did find one odd thing. Your mother had some small investment account I never knew about. Just a few $1,000s. The shift in their demeanor was electric. Mike stepped forward, trying to look nonchalant. An investment account? What kind? I'm not sure. The paperwork is a bit over my head. I'll probably have to hire someone to sort out. Ashley and Mike exchanged a look. We can help with that, she said smoothly. Mike is great with finances. I'll bet he is, I thought, picturing the report on his gambling debts. That's kind, but I've already called Clara's old firm. They'll know what to do. Mike's jaw clenched. Dad, those people charge a fortune. I can look at it for free. I can afford it, Mike. The silence that followed was thick with unspoken words. Ashley's mask of concern was cracking, revealing the predator beneath. We should go, she said finally. We'll miss our flight, but Mike didn't budge. Dad, that note you found in Mom's ring. Let me see the numbers before we go. Just in case they're important. What numbers? Ashley asked, her eyes narrowing. Mike shot her a look. Dad found a code in the ring. It's probably nothing. Now Ashley was locked in, her vacation forgotten. What kind of code? I stood up, feeling every one of my 73 years, but using my height to look down on my daughter-in-law. The kind that is none of your business. Ashley's face went crimson. Excuse me? You heard me. My wife left me a private message. The operative word being private, Dad. Mike said, stepping between us with that patronizing tone I despised. We're family. We don't keep secrets. The irony was so thick I could taste it. You mean like secret gambling debts? Or the secret company you're using to buy property with money you don't have? The blood drained from Mike's face. Ashley just gaped at me. I don't know what you're talking about, Mike stammered. Does Sullivan Investments, LLC, ring a bell? I watched the last bit of color leave their faces. Your mother knew, Mike. She knew everything. Ashley found her voice first, and it was venomous. You're a crazy old man. You don't know a thing. I know your husband owes $180,000 to loan sharks. I know he's been looking into how to have me declared incompetent. And I know you've been planning this for months. Mike sagged against the doorframe as if his bones had dissolved. Al, he whispered. Your mother hired a private investigator. Every lie, every debt, every scheme to steal from your own family. It's all here. I walked to the desk and held up the investigator's report. Clara protected me from you, even from beyond the grave. That code you want so badly? It's the key to a fortune you will never touch. Ashley grabbed Mike's arm. We have to go. Now. But Mike was just staring at me, a flicker of something that looked like awe in his eyes. He finally understood. She really knew, he murmured. What kind of man does that make you, Mike? Plotting against your own father while your mother was dying? For a second, he looked like a lost little boy. Then Ashley's grip tightened, and the man I knew returned. This isn't over, she hissed as they turned to leave. Oh, yes, it is, I called after them. It was over the moment you decided I was worth more to you in a nursing home than in my own house. The front door slammed, and I was alone again, with my wife's secrets and the grim understanding that the real war had just begun. 2 days later, my doorbell rang at 8 in the morning. A woman in a sharp suit stood on my porch, flanked by a younger man who looked like a walking legal advertisement. Mr. Sullivan? I'm Catherine Wells. This is my colleague, David Kim. We represent your son, Michael, Family Legal Matters. That was a polite way of putting it. I opened the door, but blocked the entrance. What do you want? Catherine smiled a smile that was all teeth. Mr. Sullivan, your son is worried about you. He's asked us to discuss some options like... David stepped forward with a tablet. We understand you've come into some complex financial accounts left by your late wife. Managing such things can be overwhelming, especially for someone in your position, overwhelming. As if I hadn't balanced our books to the penny for 40 years while my wife was secretly building an empire. I appreciate the concern, but I'm quite capable. Catherine's smile didn't falter. Of course, but your son could help. We've prepared documents that would grant Michael power of attorney over your finances. Just temporarily, of course, until you've had time to grieve properly. There it was. The exact move Clara's investigator had predicted. Temporarily, I repeated. And who decides when I'm done grieving? David and Catherine shared a look. That would be at your discretion. Naturally, I started to close the door. I think we're finished here, Mr. Sullivan. Catherine's voice hardened. Your son is prepared to petition the court regarding your mental competency. He's concerned about your recent erratic behavior. What erratic behavior? Accessing offshore accounts without guidance. It might appear to an outside observer that you're not in your right mind. The threat was clear. Sign away your rights, or we'll take them by force. You know what's interesting about threats? I said, leaning against the door. They only work if the person you're threatening doesn't have better lawyers than you do. Catherine's composure finally cracked. I beg your pardon? I said you could tell my son his plan is dead on arrival. Clara left me more than money. She left me an arsenal. I shut the door in their faces and immediately dialed the number from the hidden folder. Thomas Chun, the private investigator, answered on the second ring. Mr. Chun, this is Arthur Sullivan. Clara Sullivan's husband, Mr. Sullivan. I've been waiting for your call. Clara said you might need my help one day. She did, about 6 months ago. She tasked me with preparing a complete legal defense package for you. It's ready to go. Clara, my brilliant, beautiful Clara, had been 3 steps ahead of them all. How ready? I asked. Mr. Sullivan, by the time I am done presenting the evidence of your son's gambling, loan fraud, and conspiracy to commit elder abuse, he'll be lucky to avoid a prison sentence for the first time in months. A real smile spread across my face. Mr. Chun, I said, I think it's time we made some calls. Thomas Chin's office was in a downtown skyscraper that smelled of money. As he spread the documents across his desk, I saw that Clara hadn't just planned a defense. She'd planned a counteroffensive. Your wife was meticulous, Thomas said. Bank records of Mike's losses, audio recordings of him planning to have you committed, photos of him meeting with predatory estate lawyers, audio recordings. Thomas nodded grimly. Clara suspected what he was up to. She had this house wired for sound last year. Perfectly legal, as it was her property. I thought of all the conversations Mike and Ashley had held in my kitchen, every cruel joke, every calculation. Clara had heard it all. There's more, Thomas said. Clara discovered Ashley was systematically isolating you, telling friends and family you were becoming senile. It all clicked into place. Why my brother-in-law had stopped calling, why my neighbors had been so awkward. Ashley had been laying the groundwork. How strong is the evidence? Strong enough to get them both charged with attempted fraud and elder abuse. Thomas slid a thick folder toward me. But there's something else. Clara left very specific instructions. He handed me a sealed envelope. Inside was a letter dated 1 week before she died. My dearest Arthur, if you are reading this, Mike has revealed his true nature. I am so sorry I kept the money a secret, but I had to protect it from him. This money isn't just an inheritance. It's justice. Every dollar was made from investments based on information Mike thought he was hiding. When he started his company, he'd brag about his sure-thing deals. I was listening, and I was investing in the same opportunities with the inheritance money he never knew about. Every property he flipped, I bought 3 more nearby. He unknowingly financed his own undoing. I used his greed against him. Now you must do the same. Thomas has instructions to make the account transfers. You will have financial freedom, but more, you'll have a choice. You can forgive him, or you can let him face the consequences. The choice has always been yours, my love. Forever, Clara. I put the letter down, my hands shaking. Clara hadn't just shielded me. She had used Mike's own schemes to build the shield. Mr. Sullivan, Thomas said gently. Are you ready? I thought of Mike as a boy. Then I thought of him in my kitchen, dismissing my grief while his wife plotted to steal my home. Some things, once broken, can never be fixed. Mr. Chun, I want you to file everything. Today. The next morning, my quiet street exploded into chaos. As I was drinking my coffee, 3 dark SUVs pulled up to Mike and Ashley's house. Men in FBI jackets began carrying out boxes. My phone rang. Dad! Mike's voice was a raw sound of panic. What did you do? I protected myself. Michael, I said calmly, watching as an agent carried out their computers. Something you should have done for your family instead of trying to fleece them. You don't understand. This will ruin us. You ruined yourselves. I just kept the receipts. Ashley snatched the phone, her voice a shriek. You vindictive old man. Was I being vindictive when you planned to have me committed? When you lied to our family to isolate me? The line went silent, save for Ashley's sharp, ragged breaths. Clara knew everything, Mike. She spent the last year of her life protecting me from her own son. Mom wouldn't. Your mother hired a private investigator. She had this house bugged. The FBI has your records because Clara's evidence shows you've been committing loan fraud. The IRS is auditing you, and the state is investigating you for elder abuse. Dad, please. Mike's voice cracked. I never meant for it to get this bad. When did it start, Mike? When did you decide your father was worth more to you in an institution than in his own home? A long, heavy silence. When he finally spoke, his voice was a whisper. Last Christmas, I saw some of her paperwork. I saw references to accounts I didn't know about. I thought if you were both gone, it would all come to me. The honesty was horrifying, but cleaner than the lies. You were wrong. Clara made sure it was all protected from you. How much? Mike asked. How much did she hide? Enough, I said, to make sure I never again have to rely on family who sees me as an obstacle. I hung up the phone and watched as Mike and Ashley were led to separate cars. My phone rang again. It was my neighbor. Arthur, I am so sorry. Ashley told me you were getting forgetful. I should have come to you myself. It's all right, Helen. Ashley was very persuasive. Is it true? Was Michael trying to steal from you? I looked at Clara's photograph on the mantel. the woman who had protected me from a grave. It's true, I said, but it's over now. 3 weeks later, I was in Thomas Chin's office when his secretary buzzed. Mr. Sullivan, there's a Richard Torres here to see you. He says he has something of yours. The man who entered was in his 60s, with the quiet confidence of a former cop. In his hands, he held a familiar velvet box. Mr. Sullivan, I'm the man who purchased your wife's ring. I stared at him. How did you find me? Richard smiled, placing the box on the desk. Because Clara Sullivan hired me 20 years ago to do just that. If anything ever happened to her, I don't understand. I'm a retired U.S. Marshal, Mr. Sullivan. Your wife retained me to monitor certain family situations. When the ring showed up at that pawn shop, I was alerted. Richard opened the box, revealing Clara's diamond ring. But there's more you should know. He turned the ring over and pressed a tiny, invisible catch. A second, smaller compartment popped open. Inside was a micro SD card. Clara recorded everything, Mr. Sullivan. Every conversation Mike had about you, every meeting, every plan. The room seemed to tilt. She recorded him for 18 months? Richard put the card into Thomas's laptop. The screen filled with neatly labeled folders of audio, video, and financial documents. Your wife loved you enough to spend the last 2 years of her life building an ironclad legal fortress to protect you from her own son. I thought of Clara's last months, how tired she had seemed, how many late nights she'd spent at the library. She wasn't working. She was fighting a war for me. One more thing, Richard said softly. He handed me a sealed envelope marked Final Instructions. Inside was a legal document that took my breath away. In the event that Michael Sullivan attempts legal action against Arthur Sullivan's competency, the following assets will be transferred to the Chicago Children's Hospital in Michael Sullivan's name. All properties owned by Sullivan Investments, LLC, all his gambling debts and outstanding loans, and all legal fees associated with his elder abuse charges. Michael Sullivan will be personally liable for all debts and consequences while receiving zero benefit from any inheritance. Clara had designed a legal bomb, set to detonate the moment Mike tried to harm me. Your wife was a genius, Thomas said in awe. She turned his greed into a self-destruct mechanism. Clara knew he would never give up, Richard explained. So she made sure that any attempt to take what was yours would cost him everything he had. I picked up Clara's ring, its familiar weight a comfort in my hand. For 43 years, I thought I was married to a careful librarian. I was married to a master strategist who had orchestrated the most brilliant defense in history. Mr. Sullivan, Richard said gently, your wife asked me to give you one last message. He handed me an unsealed envelope. In Clara's script, it said, Arthur, you were always stronger than you thought. I just made sure you had the weapons to prove it. Love always, Clara. 6 months later, I stood in the lobby of the Chicago Children's Hospital and watched as they installed a brass plaque, the Clara Sullivan Memorial Wing. The fortune she had built was more than enough to secure my future and fund the hospital expansion she had always supported. The final, perfect irony was that my son's greed had funded the largest donation in the hospital's history. A text came through from Thomas Chun. Mike's sentencing is next week. 2 years federal prison. Ashley took a plea for 18 months. Are you attending? I typed back, no. I have better things to do, and I did. At 73, I was finally living the life Clara had secured for me. I had a small condo overlooking the lake. I'd joined a chess club, and I volunteered at the hospital. My doorbell rang that evening. It was a young woman with Mike's eyes and a nervous energy. Grandpa Arthur? It's Melissa, Mike's daughter. I hadn't seen her since the funeral. Ashley had cut me off from my grandchildren, too. Melissa, I said, opening the door. What a surprise. I know I should have called. I heard about Dad and Ashley. I'm so sorry. You have nothing to be sorry for. I do, she insisted. I knew something wasn't right. Dad kept asking about Grandma Clara's money, and Ashley was always saying you were confused. I should have done something. I looked at my granddaughter and saw Clara's integrity in her face. Come in, sweetheart. Let's talk. Over dinner, she told me about her life. She was a teacher now, engaged to be married. I feel like I should visit him, she said, her voice thick with conflict. But I'm so angry at him for what he did to you. Anger is a part of it. But he's still your father. How can you not despise him? I thought of Clara's letter, the choice she had given me. Because hate is a prison, and I choose to be free. Tears welled in Melissa's eyes. I missed you so much. Ashley told everyone you didn't want to see us. I never stopped wanting to see you, my dear. And I never will. As Melissa helped me with the dishes, she paused by Clara's photo. I always wondered why Grandma never took off that ring. She must have really loved it. I smiled, thinking of the secrets it held, the fortune it protected, the life it had saved. She loved who it protected, I said. That night, after Melissa left, promising to visit every week, I sat on my balcony, the lights of the city twinkling below. Clara's ring was on my pinky finger, its weight a constant, comforting presence. She was gone, but she was still taking care of me. The greatest love stories aren't always about grand romance. Sometimes they're about quiet protection, about someone loving you enough to fight the battles you don't even see. Clara had spent 2 years preparing for a war I never knew was coming, ensuring that her death would not leave me vulnerable to our own son. Some people search their whole lives for a love like that. I was lucky enough to have it for 43 years.